Welcome back to part two of Reed and Reed's Slater Hall Sports Hour. I'm Reed.
I'm Robert. Earlier in the week, we brought you our MLB playoff preview. That's already going poorly for me as the Chicago Cubs got bounced in the wild card round of the playoffs as I did not predict, so my bracket's already ruined. But today we'll be bringing you our NFL Week 4 recap and a Week 5 preview. So we'll jump right into it with our game recaps. We had a good one to start off Week 4, Thursday Night Football, the Minnesota Vikings visiting the Los Angeles Rams.
It was a shootout from the beginning, and the big question is what happened to the Vikings defense? Gave up 38 points to the Rams for what was supposed to be an elite defense coming into the year, good pieces all around, and it just kind of fell apart for them, giving up 38 points and losing the game.
Yeah, it was definitely a shootout from the quarterback perspective. Both Cousins and Goff had very good, if not career games for each of them. Just the Vikings' pass defense, there were mismatches all across the board. It seems like Anthony Barr was covering everyone, even though he really shouldn't have been. They really took advantage of that from the LA perspective, just firing on all cylinders. Goff spreading the ball around to all his weapons, and he has a lot of weapons. They're all fast and playmakers, and obviously that's the showcase when you get 38 points up on the board. There is a little bit of concern on the Los Angeles Rams defense perspective. You already have Talib down, Peters dealing with injuries. That could prove to be a little bit of a weakness while they're all banged up. The front seven needs to really come together and solidify that defense as being one of the best in football.
So moving on to the next game, the Cincinnati Bengals edged out the Atlanta Falcons 37-36 on a last-second A.J. Green touchdown catch.
Yeah, they go into Atlanta, beat the Falcons. Falcons fall to 1-3, losing, like you said, on that game-winning touchdown to A.J. Green, who had a good game. Andy Dalton had another good game to this season in kind of a prove-it-or-get-out type of year for the Red Rifle. Julio Jones, big game on the Falcons side, but again, no touchdowns. I believe he had 10 receptions, 100-plus yards. No touchdowns again for Julio Jones, which is weird for such a big and playmaking receiver.
He's on pace for over 2,000 yards this year, which would be an NFL record, but like you said, still does not have a touchdown this year, and it's just fascinating. Obviously, teams key on him, especially in the red zone, but the fact he doesn't have a single one yet through 4 games is mind-blowing.
Yeah, and the Atlanta defense, we've spoken before on previous episodes about the injuries on that side of the ball, and it's really bringing down the Falcons. It looks good offense for the Falcons, very bad defense so far. This could prove to be an 8-8, 9-7 at best campaign if the Falcons don't get things together quickly.
So moving on to the next game, the Chicago Bears obliterated the Fitzmagic, if you want to call it that still, Buccaneers, and Trubisky finally had his coming out party, throwing 6 touchdown passes to Bears receivers and tight ends.
Yeah, it was definitely the best game of Trubisky's young career. Other things to talk about in the game, Khalil Mack had another strip sack in this game, had one in every game thus far this season. Tariq Cohen with a big game. He had 100-plus receiving yards, got a touchdown in there. And then a big story on the Tampa Bay side, yes, Fitzmagic is dead. Jameis Winston debuted in the second half, did throw an interception on his first possession, threw another one later in the game, 2 turnovers overall. The Tampa Bay defense was bad. The Buccaneers performed so bad, Dirk Cutter said that everyone should be fired, including him. So that's not a great thing for your head coach to be saying after the game.
Moving on to the next game now, the Detroit Lions fell to the Dallas Cowboys 26-24.
Yeah, Dallas had a game-winning field goal as time expired. Detroit offense, again, looked better than they looked early in the season. It was a very efficient game for Matthew Stafford, but on the other side, Ezekiel Elliott had a monster game for the Cowboys. I saw a tweet, the Dallas Cowboys have finally found their number one receiver. It's Ezekiel Elliott. He's the only weapon they have at this point on the offense, running the ball, catching the ball. He's all the Cowboys have going for him right now.
Zeke had 152 yards on the ground and 88 through the air, which means 240 total yards, which is a career day for most players. Unless you're him, then it's just a good day. Moving on to the next game, the Green Bay Packers got back to their winning ways, and the Buffalo Bills got back to being the Bills, and Green Bay took the game 22-0.
Yeah, last week the Buffalo Bills surprised everyone, especially Vikings faithful, in beating the Vikings. But this week, not going to happen going to Green Bay. They lost 22-0, like it previously mentioned. And yeah, just back to being Buffalo. Josh Allen looked like a rookie quarterback. Not the best game out of Green Bay offensively, but having Aaron Rodgers against the Bills is going to get you the W, and it was evident on Sunday. Moving on to another surprising game in this young NFL season, the Philadelphia Eagles falling to the Tennessee Titans on the road 26-23 in overtime.
Carson Wentz finally looked like his MVP self from last year, going for 348 in the air and 2 touchdowns. And they somehow ended up losing in overtime, but the Titans are very quietly off to an ugly 3-1 start. Corey Davis finally broke out with 161 yards in his first touchdown of his career, and I don't know how their wins have not been pretty, but wow, they're 3-1 to start the year. So
yeah, and Marcus Mariota finally threw a touchdown this season. He had 2 passing touchdowns to go along with a rushing touchdown. The offense has not looked good this year. Mike Vrabel's helped that defense move along. But yeah, things have to come together despite the 3-1 start if they really want to take the next step in that conference. And from the other perspective, Philadelphia falls to 2-2. I mean, they have Wentz back. The offense seems to be rolling a little bit. They've got some injuries to deal with, but if you want to repeat, get back in the playoffs, make another deep run, you got to bring things together a little bit than losing to Tennessee.
You also see, though, in their division, I mean, there's not much competition. The Giants obviously aren't doing anything this year. The Redskins are bound to go 7-9 or 8-8. And the Cowboys don't look like they have enough weapons to make it anywhere in the playoffs. So I think, if anything, they're going to get in by default and maybe go on another underdog run like they were last year.
Next game of the slate, another overtime game. The Houston Texans outlasting the Indianapolis Colts 37-34.
Andrew Luck, on his newly repaired shoulder, threw 62 passes in this game. He did have a good game, 464 yards and 4 touchdowns. The Colts had 30 rushing yards that were not from Andrew Luck. He has absolutely no running game. Nothing has changed from his 2016 stint when he was healthy, and they have nothing around him. It's all him. And on the other side, DeAndre Hopkins finally had his big breakout game, 10 catches, 169 yards, and a touchdown. And with all the weapons the Texans have on offense, Deshaun Watson has to figure it out soon, and it looked like he finally started to get it today.
Yeah, and on the Texans defense, I can officially say J.J. Watt is back. He's had some good games thus far this season, but another good game, 2 sacks out of J.J. Watt helped propel the Texans to a win. And I'm going to talk about it more later, but Frank Reich, what are you doing?
On to potentially the least surprising game of the week. The New England Patriots routed the Dolphins 38-7 in Foxborough.
Yeah, so much for this being the Miami Dolphins division to win. Yeah, also the speculation about how the Dolphins were off to a great start. The dynasty might be over for New England. Nope, it's 38-7 New England as it has been for the past couple decades.
Yeah, not much to say. Tannehill finally fell off his mountain of average and 100 yards and a pick. Looked like we all expected Ryan Tannehill to look for most of the year, but you never know. The Dolphins could sneak into a wild card spot.
Yeah, James White and Sony Michel had big games, or very productive games at least, for the New England Patriots offense. That's going to prove to be vital. They need weapons out of the backfield. Rex Burkhead's on IR, and they're getting Juliet and Edelman back. Josh Gordon's new to the offense. Maybe things start to gel a little bit more for the New England Patriots offense. And now on to Jacksonville, where the Jaguars beat Sam Darnold and the New York Jets 31-12.
Yep, Sam Darnold struggled again, but that's to be expected for a rookie quarterback against the Jacksonville defense. And again, their defense proved they're infinitely valuable and they can hang with any team. Obviously, they're playing the Jets, but their defense just shows how dangerous they can be in a one game setting. And believe it or not, Blake Bortles is not a laughingstock anymore. He's a legitimate quarterback who can protect the ball. No, he's not going to win you games like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers can, but he protects the ball, he makes the throws he should be making, and he looks confident in pressure situations, especially on third downs. So that's a good sign for Jacksonville moving forward.
Yeah, there's been some running themes to the Jacksonville offense this year. The defense is very dependable, but the offense, like has been said previously, Blake Bortles is not a joke anymore. He's a dependable quarterback, and Leonard Fournette got hurt again, and in his absence, T.J. Yeldon proved he can be a reliable running back, especially in third down pass-catching situations. Jacksonville definitely wants both of them to be healthy, but if Fournette again goes down due to his hard running style, T.J. Yeldon's there as the backup.
Fournette did get ruled out for Week 5 already, and it's only Wednesday, so that could be, like I said, a running theme for the Jaguars with his running style. He could be missing a lot of time. On to the next game, the Cleveland Browns somehow lost in overtime to the John Gruden-led Oakland Raiders in his first win back.
Yeah, Gruden finally gets his first win. Good for him, but I'm not sure how the Cleveland Browns lost this. I would look at the score repeatedly through the game. Cleveland up by a couple scores. Baker Mayfield definitely brought some big plays and energy to that offense that was not there with Tyrod Taylor. But on the Oakland side of the ball, Marshawn Lynch had a big game running the football, beast mode going all over the place. Amari Cooper finally had his best game of the season after it was Jordy Nelson's turn the past couple weeks. And yet, this has got to feel good if you're the Raiders and John Gruden, but on the Cleveland side of the ball, you have to learn how to win sometimes. There's a real possibility the Cleveland Browns could be 4-0 this season, and instead they're 1-2-1.
Only thing I have to add to that is Marshawn Lynch is having a sneaky good year. He had 130 yards on the ground on the day, which puts him at 300 for the year, which puts him on pace for over 1,200 yards on the ground as a 32-year-old running back who was previously retired. So I think that Marshawn Lynch is having a sneaky good year, and people need to start paying attention to him as not just a comedy act, but a good running back.
Next game, one of the quieter games from the NFL slate this weekend, the Seattle Seahawks outlasting the Arizona Cardinals 20-17.
Well, yeah, Russell Wilson gets his first win this year with his minimal supporting cast, and I think the biggest takeaway from this is Josh Rosen definitely looked like a rookie. He didn't put up much in the scoring column for them, and I want to add that I did predict David Johnson would struggle this year. He's going to face a lot of loaded boxes, and they're not using him much as our route runner, and David Johnson's not been the 2016 David Johnson we've all come to expect. And I think you want to talk about Earl Thomas if you want to take that.
Yeah, not a great day to be Earl Thomas. Get injured. I believe he did end up breaking his leg. There was trade speculation that he'd be traded to the Cowboys or Chiefs eventually, but ends up breaking his leg, carted off. He actually flipped off the Seattle sideline. I think that was directed towards management and potentially Pete Carroll. He seems to have good relationships with the players, but yeah, tough break, holding out to get the money that he deserved to get his market value as one of the best safeties currently in the NFL, and instead he's injured and his future is in question.
Le'Veon Bell is going to continue being the bad guy for NFL players to get their money.
Yeah, he gave himself that title on Twitter.
Everyone gets mad at. I just want to go into holdouts a little bit. Everyone gets mad at players that hold out and say it's selfish and they're only thinking about themselves and they want the money. But when something exactly like this happens, you understand because now he's a safety who's aging, who just came off a broken leg. Before the year he could have got a massive extension. Now he's going into free agency, coming off a broken leg and an aging safety from a crappy team. Yeah. So that before the year is when he should have got his extension, and you can't fault him for doing what he did.
Yeah, you really just can't blame players for trying to get market value for their play, and in Earl Thomas's case, not good. Now to the next game, the New Orleans Saints visiting the Meadowlands to take down the New York Giants.
The biggest surprise from this game was the Giants completely took Michael Thomas out of the game. He only had 4 catches on 4 targets, I might add, because he doesn't drop passes. But when they take Michael Thomas out of the game, that led to a big game for Alvin Kamara on the ground. He had 134 yards and 3 touchdowns just rushing on the day, and I think that was a big key because they took Michael Thomas, which essentially took the Saints' passing game out of the equation on offense. So that led to a big game on the ground, and obviously Odell's voicing his frustration with the Giants, saying it shouldn't be this hard to win, but with their offensive line and Eli Manning and their struggles on defense, it is this hard to win.
Yeah, Kamara, like my co-host mentioned, looked good on the ground. They're getting Mark Ingram back, which it'll solidify that ground game even more moving forward. But the New Orleans defense looked better than it has all season, not quite to the level which it was last year, but getting better, which is important moving forward in the season. And for the Giants, Saquon was quiet, Odell was quiet, the whole offense was quiet. That's been a running theme this season, not getting the big playmakers involved quite as much as you'd like to, and that's just not a recipe for winning. If you're going to win with a poor offensive line and an average defense and an old Eli Manning at quarterback, you've got to get Odell and Saquon involved in the game, get them as many touches as possible, and they're just not doing it this far this season.
The next game is the Los Angeles Chargers pulled out a close victory against the C.J. Beathard-led San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah, Phillip Rivers and Melvin Gordon got it done for the Chargers. Got some points throughout the game, especially late. And on the San Francisco side, Beathard looked good.
Beathard looked like a friend. No, I'm just kidding.
No, he surprised a lot of people, not these 2 Iowa fans who are broadcasting from the University of Iowa campus who are big C.J. Beathard fans, but he looked good out there. His connection with George Kittle, college teammates, was on point. There was a point in the game where C.J. Beathard threw a pass to George Kittle and he was tackled by Desmond King, and that's just perfect Iowa football right there.
All Iowa fans had a moment watching that play. Just gets you going.
And C.J. Beathard, people have said it throughout his career, he's one tough guy back there at quarterback. Took some nasty shots. It was speculated that he'd come out of the game, stayed in it, stood in the pocket, delivered throws, gave him a chance to win, and that's all you can ask for out of a backup quarterback.
Chargers just can't seem to avoid letdowns. I mean, obviously they're 2-2, but coming into the year, they were, I don't want to say a dark horse, but everyone had them as the favorite to win the AFC West, and then a dark horse to make the Super Bowl. And they were one field goal away from avoiding 1-3. And just like last year, they know they're a good team, but they just can't get out to a good start. I mean, last year they are 1-3 because their kicker misses that field goal. So I'm going to add that there is improvement, but 2-2 to start the year. Already fallen 2 games behind the Chiefs in the AFC West, and they're gonna have to start playing like they can soon if they want to make a run at the playoffs.
Now, moving on to Sunday Night Football, the soap opera that is the Pittsburgh Steelers just got worse as they lose at home 26-14 to the rival Baltimore Ravens.
Steelers dysfunction continues. Le'Veon has said he's coming back in the week 7 to 8 time frame, so that's good for them. But the James Conner only had 12 touches, so obviously he was an integral part of their offense. Antonio Brown saved his night. He did have 1 touchdown pass. Juju was almost taken out of the game, and the Steelers' offense just looks in shambles right now. But on the other side, Joe Flacco looked very good again. Just like everyone's predicting, with competition behind him in Lamar Jackson, he's really proven to be a guy that can win games for your team that he was back when he got his massive extension.
Yeah, and Joe Flacco, as my co-host mentioned, playing well this season, another good game. All his new weapons that are around him are proving to help him progress the season as well, with the pressure that comes with Lamar Jackson as your backup quarterback. And one of his biggest weapons tonight, John Brown outplaying Antonio Brown. He had 3 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown, really acting as that deep threat that Joe Flacco needs to have on offense. Played by Torrey Smith in the past. It's what they wanted Rashard Perriman to be, but he just never actually learned how to play professional wide receiver, I guess.
That was a Raiders pick, just picking purely on speed.
Yeah, it was a John Ross pick. Moving into our last NFL game of Week 4, the Kansas City Chiefs going to Mile High and beating the Denver Broncos on Monday Night Football 27-23.
I did tweet this out, but a star was born on that night. That was infinitely more impressive than his 6 touchdown passes. Going into Mile High, which is one of the hardest environments in football, his offensive line was very, very good over the first part of the year, was doing him no favors. He was scrambling for his life. It's amazing what he only threw for 300 yards and a touchdown and a rushing touchdown. But the fact that he orchestrated a drive after looking putrid for most of the game, orchestrated a drive at the end of the game that ended up getting them into the end zone. He threw a pass left-handed. He has more left-handed completions this year than interceptions. It's just amazing. Kareem Hunt finally broke out, 121 yards and a touchdown. Kelsey remained a big part, 7 catches for 70 yards and a touchdown. Hill didn't have his explosive plays, but he got his worth. He had a lot of catches. Didn't break one, unfortunately, but still, this Chiefs offense looks great, but obviously we got to mention how bad their defense looks. Royce Freeman averages over 8 yards a carry. Phillip Lindsay, 5'8", is just running through Chiefs tacklers. It's amazing how bad this defense is, but how good the offense is. It's going to win them a lot of regular season games, but we'll see when they play Jacksonville this week. So we'll see how this offense can fare against an elite defense that they could potentially face in the AFC playoffs.
Ditto. Now, I think we've got that game covered as well as it needs to be. We're moving on now to our segments of the week. We'll start first with Performance of the Week. I have the quarterback for the Chicago Bears, Mitchell Trubisky, 354 yards, 6 touchdown passes in the game of his life. First half, he threw 5 touchdowns to 5 different receivers, and of course 6 overall. Coming into this game, he had 2 touchdowns in the entirety of the season, both of them coming in the Seattle game. He threw 6 touchdowns in this game total. If Trubisky continues to play like this, or even close to this, not as mediocre self as he has been in the past, looks good for the Bears.
I agree with Trubisky. 6 touchdown passes is a big one. I had 3 guys. I mentioned them all already. Jared Goff, 465 yards and 5 touchdowns. Andrew Luck, 464 yards and 4 touchdowns with absolutely no running game. And Alvin Kamara, 134 yards and 3 touchdowns. It'll be, like you said earlier, it'll be interesting to see how much his workload changes on the ground with Ingram coming back. As much as they say they don't want to overwork him, I just don't see how you can change how many touches he's getting. He's one of the most dynamic players in the NFL, whether it's running or catching out of the backfield or even splitting him out and throwing him routes. But he's definitely one to be on the lookout for, a dark horse MVP candidate right now.
Thank you for your performances of the week. Now we move on to Stat of the Week, and mine is a crazy one. I'll read the quote here. On Sunday, Cordero Patterson became the 70th person to catch a touchdown pass from Tom Brady, tying Vinny Testaverde for the most by one player in his career. It's just crazy how many different cast of characters Tom Brady has dealt with over the course of his career, throwing touchdowns to 70 different players. Gronkowski has the most touchdowns out of anyone he's ever thrown to with 76. And also among that list, Mike Vrabel, the former linebacker for the Patriots and the current Tennessee head coach, had 8 touchdowns. So, throwing touchdowns to linebackers.
My stat of the week, believe it or not, it's about Pat Mahomes. He threw for 192 yards outside the pocket on Monday. That is the most such passing yards in a game in the last 10 years. And like I said, his offensive line that was so solid going into the game so far this year was doing him no favors, and he was scrambling a lot, doing what him and Aaron Rodgers like to do, the playground style of football.
Yeah, my underrated performance of the week, the Iowa Hawkeye alum, C.J. Beathard, quarterbacking for the San Francisco 49ers in the absence of Jimmy Garoppolo. I've said this before, he just looked tough out there. He's one tough guy, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns. He had a couple interceptions, but those were off of dropped passes that led to the interception. So overall, he had a clean game. He impressed the coaches, he impressed the fan base, and he proved he can lead an NFL team.
My underrated performance of the week, Golden Tate. It's not just his performance today, this week. He had 8 catches, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's gone over 1,000 yards in 3 of his 4 years with the Lions, and he's on pace for almost 1,600 yards this year. And the Lions, with Stafford under center, they have Golden Tate, Marvin Jones, Kenny Galladay on the outside. They may have finally found a running attack with Kerryon Johnson and LeGarrette Blount and Theo Riddick out of the backfield. This looks like, on paper, like it should be a great Lions offense, and Golden Tate is the driving factor of that, even if he doesn't get the attention that he deserves.
My surprise of the week, I tried to get some variety in here, but I just couldn't pick anyone other than Mitchell Trubisky. I mean, he had 2 touchdown passes in 3 games coming in this season. His most touchdown passes in a game in his NFL career is 2, and he throws 5 in the first half and 6 overall. My surprise of the week definitely is Mitchell Trubisky.
My surprise of the week, I mentioned earlier, the Vikings defense. They're 22nd in the NFL in points per game allowed at 27.5, and they're 21st in yards. They're allowing 381 yards per game. And this, like I said, this was a Vikings defense that was rivaling the Jacksonville Jaguars defense for the best defense in football coming into the year. And here they are, ranking in the bottom half of the league in most defensive stats. And it's pretty sad considering how good this offense is, how good the roster could be overall if their defense could pull it together.
My clown of the week, the head coach for the Indianapolis Colts, Frank Reich. They had a 4th down and 4 at their own 43-yard line in overtime. He decided to go for it. It was an incomplete pass at the foot of the receiver on a throw by Andrew Luck. Houston ends up getting a big play, kicking the game-winning field goal. After the game, Reich said they were, quote, playing to win, not to tie. Well, congratulations, you did neither, you lost the game.
Okay, we're going to turn this into our debate of the week because I have no problem with his call. If you're a team that's trying to push with your franchise quarterback, why would you sit there and attempt to tie? Yeah, you could punt it and they're probably not going to score and you tie. Big deal. Well, why would you not try to win? The goal of the game, you play to win the game.
Yeah, you play to win the game when the opportunity presents itself. It was 4th and 4 in their own territory.
It's 4th and 4. It's 4th and 4 with very little time left.
Yeah, and with Andrew Luck playing with 8th graders.
It doesn't matter. He threw for 464 yards and 4 touchdowns.
And he threw this pass at the foot of the receiver.
It doesn't matter. It's 4th and 4. They were very close to midfield.
Very close to midfield. That was 7 yards to midfield.
That's very close. That's less than 10 yards.
Yeah,
I'm trying to say that it doesn't matter. The Texans could have not got one big play from DeAndre Hopkins and it would have been a tie.
With the Colts defense, I don't count on anything.
You can't count on anything with any defense. The Vikings are the 22nd best defense in football.
I can count on the
you can't.
Bears defense to get a sack by Khalil Mack every game.
That's okay. Thanks, Bears fan. I'm trying to say that this is 100% the right move. Maybe it wasn't the greatest play call or the greatest execution, but for Frank Reich, that was the correct call.
You said it just wasn't good across the board. You got to play for the tie there. You can't allow them to...
So you're telling me that if the Bears were in that situation and they played for the tie instead of trying to win the game, you wouldn't have been mad?
With little time remaining in overtime like that, you have to punt it.
Little time... Yes, exactly. Little time remaining. The Texans had one big play that DeAndre Hopkins broke free on. If he doesn't get that play, they tie. And then nobody says anything. It's one big play, and one play didn't go their way, the 4th and 4, and one play didn't go their way on the other side, and then it blew up like he just went for it on 4th and 20. It was 4th and 4. His quarterback had over 400 yards passing. Obviously, I would have done the same thing because you're playing to win. You're not trying to tie.
Obviously, you would have done the same. You have to punt it there.
Why would you punt it?
A tie is better than a loss in that situation in a close division.
But you can't say that you're losing. There's no way you could have seen
in that situation,
DeAndre Hopkins catching a 30-yard pass.
No, if on that kind of play call, you have to think, if we don't get it, we're going to lose this game.
Why? They're on the 43
because they're on
yard
your
line.
they're in your territory.
It doesn't matter.
I'm pretty sure it matters when all it takes is a field goal to win the game.
Yeah, but they don't get a 30-yard play, then they're not getting it.
Your mind.
It doesn't matter if they're in the 40. Okay, if they're on the 20-yard line.
It's an offense led by Deshaun Watson and it has DeAndre Hopkins out there. You have to count that they're going to move the ball.
Deshaun Watson has like 5 turnovers in 3 games. How is that? That's not a good thing.
He had his best game of the season against your putrid defense. You have to count that they're going to move the ball.
Yeah, that's not. You play to win the game. And this turns into our debate of the week out of nowhere.
You have to punt it there. Go on to your clown of the week.
Just stop.
You just stopped. You interrupted my segment.
It turned into a debate of the week. My clown of the week, I couldn't resist. Browns fans, you could be 4-0 right now, but instead you're 1-2, and you could be leading the division that is in shambles outside of the Ravens right now. I'm sorry. I don't know how you stay a Browns fan, but you could be 4-0, but you have 1 win.
My worst headline of the week. Quote, Gruden stunned by Mac's dominating play, end quote. Why do the Raiders press keep asking John Gruden about Khalil Mack, and why does John Gruden keep giving juicy answers like this? Of course Khalil Mack is a good football player. He's going to get his. Pay attention to your team. Work on your defense. Stop worrying about Khalil Mack and commenting about him.
So for my worst headline of the week, on TV they were talking about whether the Steelers should welcome back Le'Veon Bell with open arms when he comes back in week 7 to 8. Of course you do. Your team is 1-2-1 without your star running back. Why would you not welcome him back? He is the key to your offense that makes it go. No. Yeah, because he held out to get his market value. You say, no, sorry, we don't want you anymore. Trade him or you welcome him back. You don't say, yeah, sorry, we don't want you.
Yeah, really.
Just a stupid headline.
Yeah, really trying to prove a point there if you're the Steelers.
Yeah.
Now, moving on to our NFL Top 5 Power Rankings. I'll start us off at number 5. I have the Baltimore Ravens leading the AFC North. We've spoken about how Flacco's improving this year, has a new cast of characters around him, some pressure from Lamar Jackson, but the big story for the Ravens is that defense, especially the secondary, but at all 3 levels. Just a very good defense going against some good offenses in the AFC. That defense is going to prove vital coming down the stretch and especially approaching playoff time. Ravens, my 5th best team in the NFL.
I have the Ravens and the Patriots as a toss-up here. I think if you're coming down to if you're coming, like, say, if it's a playoff game, I would take whoever's at home between the Patriots and the Ravens. So I like the Patriots just because it's Tom Brady. He's going to do what he does. And the Ravens, obviously, for everything he said. So I have it a toss-up at 5 between Patriots and Ravens.
Number 4, I have Saxonville, the Jacksonville Jaguars, for, again, reasons previously mentioned in this episode. Blake Bortles is no longer a joke. The defense, once again, is for real at all 3 levels. Just a devastating defense for opposing quarterbacks and offenses. And that's about all that needs to be said for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Not a joke at quarterback and a devastating defense. For that reason, they're the 4th best team in football.
I have the New Orleans Saints at number 4. Drew Brees, they showed they can win even without Drew Brees throwing for 300 yards and Michael Thomas going off. They showed they have a ground game with Kamara and Ingram's coming back. So I think the defense is pretty bad right now, but I still think they have time to turn it around before the postseason.
I have the New Orleans Saints at number 3. Is it weird that I still kind of consider Drew Brees to be underrated or considered underrated by a majority of the NFL fan base and people within the game? He just takes over games. He's efficient. He moves the offense even when he's not throwing for 1 billion yards like he's capable of doing. But yeah, Kamara looks good. They're bringing Ingram back. Michael Thomas catches everything. The defense is improving, albeit against the Giants. So we'll see how that progresses. But Saints, 3rd best team right now.
I just want to say if Drew Brees throws for 1 billion yards, he might just be overrated at that point.
Would you be surprised, though, if he threw for 1 billion yards?
No, I wouldn't. My number 3 team, I have the Jaguars. Not much to say. Blake Bortles is decent. Defense is good. They're good. Weak AFC.
My 2nd best team, and it's kind of a toss-up at the top. I have the Kansas City Chiefs at number 2 for all the reasons that have been mentioned. Pat Mahomes is having an MVP caliber season. Dangerous weapons on offense. The only thing holding them back from being number 1 is some questions on defense, especially with tackling and stopping the running game. But we'll see how that goes moving forward. I'm confident the Chiefs will continue to be at the top of the power rankings moving forward.
I have the Chiefs there as well. Pat Mahomes is good. Offense is good. Defense is bad. We'll see how they play against real defense this week.
And for the 4th straight week running, I have the Los Angeles Rams at number 1 in my power rankings. Jared Goff is looking like he is the franchise quarterback they drafted. Todd Gurley's still a beast at running back. Weapons all around the offense. Aaron Donald is insane. That D-line is insane. Some other pieces on the back end need to be fixed, but they're capable of doing that. Sean McVay's a great young coach. Special teams, Greg Zuerlein's coming back soon, so that'll be a plus for them. Rams, best team in football.
I have the Rams there too, and I want to mention in my underrated performances, I also noted Cooper Kupp, 9 catches, 162 yards, and 2 touchdowns last week. Everyone kind of discredits him because of the talent in the offense and how good they've looked, and he looks like he belongs on the Patriots. So everyone kind of discredits him, but he's been very good his rookie year last year, and then this year he's off to a hot start again. So I think the Rams are 1 because they are good.
Now, we're going to finish off this podcast by giving you our Week 5 picks. In our picks last week, I was 9-6. I moved to 34-29 on the season.
I went 11-4, the best record we've had so far this year, but I am still 31-32 on the year. But again, I am not worried.
Long season to go. So let's start off this week with Thursday Night Football. The Indianapolis Colts going to New England to play the Patriots.
Frank Reich will not win. I will take the Patriots in this game.
Yeah, I'm taking the Patriots because they're playing the Colts. That's all that needs to be said. Tennessee Titans looking to continue their good start to the season, at least record-wise, traveling to Buffalo to play the Bills.
I have the Titans winning, and that means they go to 4-1. How are they 4-1? That's just crazy, but I have the Titans.
Yeah, I'm also picking the Titans in this game. Keep finding ways to win. Whether Mariota's in there, isn't in there, is productive, isn't productive, they'll find a way to win this game. Moving on, the Miami Dolphins playing the Cincinnati Bengals.
I will be taking the Bengals in this game. Their offense looks better than we all expected it to, so I'm taking the Bengals.
Who dat say going to beat them Bengals? Certainly not the Miami Dolphins this week. Andy Dalton keeps it going. Offense keeps it going overall, and they're going to beat the Miami Dolphins. Next game on the slate, the division-leading Baltimore Ravens against the underachieving Cleveland Browns.
I'm going to be taking the Baltimore Ravens in this game.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Ravens. That defense is going to have a field day on the rookie quarterback Baker Mayfield. Next game, another divisional matchup. The Green Bay Packers traveling to the Motor City to play the Detroit Lions.
I'm taking the Detroit Lions in this game. I am just high on their offense. Like I said earlier, I do think that Green Bay it'll be a good game, but I am taking the Lions at home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers on the road. Rodgers has feasted off divisional opponents in his time as the Green Bay starting quarterback, and I think it's going to continue here beating the Lions.
As a Bears fan, you would know that he feasts on division opponents.
Yeah, I have nightmares. Moving on, the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead in a potential AFC Championship matchup.
I am taking the Jacksonville Jaguars in this game. As I said before, Pat Mahomes had a lot of new looks thrown at him against the Broncos, and he's going to get a lot of new looks this week against a more talented defense. I still think it'll be a good game because you're at Arrowhead, dynamic place to play, but I'm taking the Jaguars in a close game.
Oh, it's Arrowhead. I'll pick the Chiefs in this game. I think the offense, and especially Mahomes, will keep it going, and they'll prove some people wrong playing against the Saxonville defense and still being productive. So, yeah, I'll take the Chiefs.
How did I just trash on the Chiefs offense or pick against them, and now you're complimenting them? It doesn't work like this.
No correlation. It shouldn't end up like this, but it has. I'm picking the Chiefs for some reason, and they'll probably lose just because.
I think you've picked the Chiefs every week, haven't you?
I believe I don't remember picking against the Chiefs, and it's worked out so far. So let's just keep going. Next game, the Denver Broncos, after a tough loss on Monday Night Football, going to play the New York Jets.
Broncos will fluster Darnold, and it will be not close.
Yeah, with Von Miller and Bradley Chubb coming off the edges, it's going to be a long night for Sam Darnold. I'm picking the Broncos. In a matchup of disappointing teams thus far this season, the Atlanta Falcons traveling to the soap opera that is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I'm taking the Falcons to avoid the 1-4 start, and I'm having the Steelers start 1-3-1. So taking the Falcons in this game.
Yeah, I'm actually taking the Steelers at home in this game. It's going to be an offensive shootout with two very disappointing, even bad defenses this year. But I think, Roethlisberger to Antonio Brown have a good connection this game. I think the Steelers outlast the Falcons. Moving on, the New York Football Giants traveling to Carolina to face the Panthers.
I am taking the Panthers because the Giants' offense is bad so far this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a long day for the Giants offense. I'm picking the Carolina Panthers to win this game. Kuechly's going to hold the running game in check. McCaffrey and Newton are dynamic on offense, going to get them points on the board. So many points that the Giants won't be able to keep up, so I'm picking the Panthers. Next game on the slate, the Gruden-led Oakland Raiders traveling to Los Angeles and the soccer stadium to play the Chargers.
I am taking the Chargers, even though there'll probably be more Raiders fans there than Chargers.
Oh, there will definitely be more Raiders fans.
I am taking the Chargers.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Chargers. At some point, they've got to get on the roll that they tend to get on this point in the year. They've avoided a devastating start to the season that they had last year. They've been mediocre thus far. They need to get things going. I think they will this week against the Raiders. I'm picking the Chargers. Next game, a rematch of the NFC Championship game last year, but two disappointing starts for both of these teams. The Minnesota Vikings traveling to Philly to play the Eagles.
I think this will be the game of the week. I am taking the Eagles, though, in a close game against the Vikings.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Eagles. Wentz is looking good in his return from injury. The Minnesota defense, especially the pass defense, has not looked good for those simple reasons. I'm going to say Wentz outduels Kirk Cousins, brings home a win for Philly. Moving on, the Arizona Cardinals going to San Francisco to play C.J. Beathard and the 49ers.
C.J. Beathard will show Josh Rosen who the real franchise quarterback is and take the win here.
Yeah, I'm also saying the 49ers get the win at home. Beathard to Kittle has been a lethal connection thus far this season. It's going to keep going. Cardinals just don't get anything going on offense. They've got a couple pieces on defense, but not enough to stop the C.J. Beathard train. 49ers win. Last Sunday afternoon game, the Los Angeles Rams against their divisional opponent, the Seattle Seahawks.
I'm taking the Rams because they are very good and the Seahawks are very not.
Yeah, also taking the Rams. That Seattle offensive line, let's just say Russell Wilson's going to have some bruises the next day. That offense is going to go all over the
He's
place
used to
for
it,
the Rams.
though. It's okay.
Yeah, he's very used to it. Poor Russell Wilson. And without Earl Thomas, that secondary not looking good against the weapons of the Rams. I'm taking the Rams. Now in our Sunday night football matchup, it's the Battle of Texas, the Dallas Cowboys playing the Houston Texans.
I am taking the 1-3 Texans in this game to beat Dallas. I just think Watson's going to have another good game against the struggling Cowboys team.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Texans. Just more weapons on the Houston offensive side of the ball for Deshaun Watson to play with. On the defensive side, Clowney and Watt are getting going this season. They'll be rushing the passer, getting to Dak Prescott with a lack of weapons on his side of the ball. DeMarcus Lawrence having a good year for the Dallas Cowboys. He won't be enough to stop the Texans defense. Texans win the ball game. Last game of this week, Monday Night Football, the Washington Redskins traveling to New Orleans to play the Saints in Drew Brees' pursuit of the passing yards record.
He needs 201 yards to pass Peyton Manning for the most all-time passing yards in a single career, and I will be taking Drew Brees and the Saints to break the record and win the game.
Yeah, it's tough winning in the Superdome to begin with, but winning there when Drew Brees is going for a record, the crowd's going to be into it. The offense is going to be rooting for him. I'm taking the Saints, and I don't think it'll be particularly close.
And that was part 2 of this week's podcast, our NFL recap. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. We'll link that below. I'm Reed.
I'm Robert. Thanks for listening.